Hey guys, welcome to Lawbogadas, the official podcast.
Welcome.
We are so glad that you're here. I am Missy Duarte and I'm here with my co-host Connie Peña. Hey Connie.
Hey, Missy.
And this is the podcast where we're going to be discussing issues that are important to you, to us, discussing how the law intersects with everyday life and, hoping to provide you with information that, of course, will help you resolve and, minimize issues that can come up. And also, for the entertainment component as well. So we're excited. This has been a long time in the making. I know Connie can attest to that. And yeah, we're just excited to be here. So we're excited for all the support that we've already received, and we're just ready to get started.
Missy, while we're at it, why don't you take a second to tell those that don't know who you are a little bit about yourself, where you practice, where you're from.
Okay. Yeah, I could totally do that. So I am an attorney. I practice in New Jersey, also licensed in Florida, but my office is based in Hackensack, New Jersey, where I specialize in personal injury law. I've been about 10 years out practicing law. Like I said, I also am licensed in Florida, where I actually started my career practicing criminal defense, and that's actually how you and I met. And our friendship has developed and flourished since then. So I'm not only an attorney, I am a mother. I am a Dominican American. My family is from the Dominican Republic. I was born in New York. So there's a lot, to unpack and unload when it comes to, life and what goes on outside and how that impacts, my job as a mother, my job as an attorney, as a person. These are everyday things. I think, you and I both agree. We're not just, who we are professionally. There's other things that influence or impact us. And that, we
Yeah.
found to be very important and something that a lot of people want to know about. So that's a little bit about me, but let's talk about you some more.
Well, thank you. My name's Connie Peña. I am licensed to practice in the state of Florida, where I have my law firm, Peña Law Office, practicing in the Tri-County area, Miami, Palm Beach, Broward. I'm basically focused on family cases and family-based immigration. My family is from Chile. I was actually born there, but I've lived in South Florida my entire life, essentially since I was a toddler. So this is where I've grown up, where I've been. I'm also a mom. And yeah, literally everything you said is a thing, right? This being an entrepreneur, as we both are, having our businesses, caring about our businesses and those who work with us, right? Balancing that with our families and our responsibilities and our guilt and all of that good stuff, right?
Right.
So there's so much that goes into it, and especially with having, just in my career in general, a lot of my clients are, Hispanic. They're from South America, Central America, and cultural issues make everything different, right? They change the way certain things are either perceived or dealt with, no matter what kind of topic we're talking about. And it's just something that I do, and I know you do, talking to people so much, and we go into the above and beyond of what we're really there to do, right? That this just kind of came naturally, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely, given our cultural background and just our background in general as the people that we are, there are just certain nuances that come up that you really wouldn't think about or, come naturally to us, but present issues to somebody else, or maybe they have questions and we've kind of been through it. So we keep finding ourselves in this position where there's so much information out there that people don't know about. And, we want to kind of empower our audience and our listeners about things that they should know, keep in mind, or, just offering perspective on certain issues. So, we're here to bring that to you, and, we hope that you like what you hear. If, certainly as we continue to develop material, we want your input as to what you want to hear about, right? And so please, of course, email us at info@lawbogadas.com. That's LAWBOGADAS.com. And follow us on Instagram. at Lawbogadas, DM us, send us a message. We'd love to interact with you and just learn more about you and the issues and the things that are important to you. So yeah, like you said, it comes naturally. And we're so excited. This has been a long time in the making, and finally, wheels are up and we're flying. So here we are, you guys.
Yeah. And with
So
the whole thing that you're talking about, the information that's out there, there's also this situation where things happen to people, right? Which is what we're going to get into in our episode. And they don't even realize all the issues that are there, right? As attorneys, we're trained to do what's called issue spotting, where we're given a set of facts and we need to figure out, okay, this is an issue, this is an issue, this is an issue, and how the law affects it, et cetera, et cetera. But everyday people don't think that way, right?
right.
So when things happen, they may seem minor. They may seem like, oh, this only affects X part of my life, or it doesn't affect me. And people don't understand how something that seems minor can actually snowball into something bigger. And that's another big part of what we want to talk about, is kind of to bring this this way of seeing life, unfortunately, in a really negative way, if you will, right? Yeah. To see where all these pitfalls are, to help people out so that they know where to go, that they should call someone, that they should, hire someone, that they need to take steps to make sure that this doesn't result in a way that if they don't act, or they act in the wrong way, it's going to end up hurting them in the long run. Right.
Yeah. And sometimes it's about, those spidey senses, as they say. Something doesn't sound right, it doesn't feel right. So maybe it isn't right, and sometimes our audience, you just don't know what questions to ask, so you don't know what you don't know. So we want you to be more in the know about certain things that are going on, and hopefully we can provide that to you. So I think we should just get started overall in terms of, what we want to talk about in today's episode. Today's episode is a little bit interesting. It involves an attorney, coincidentally. So let's just hop right in and discuss what happened. So there was a Cleveland-based law firm. Okay. They have multiple areas of practice, one of them being employment law. And a senior attorney, I believe in the employment law division, sent a text message to a now former associate, threatening to sabotage and damage her future. Now, why would this text being sent to this associate? The associate was out on maternity leave. So she just had a baby, was out on maternity leave, and coincidentally had been interviewing while on maternity leave, or at some point was interviewing and decided to accept a position at a different firm. Upon returning to work after maternity leave, not too long after, I'm not really sure on the timeline, like specifically how much time passed after her returning, she gave notice that she was leaving. So that's where the text came in. And it's just interesting how, the text came from the senior associate in the employment law division, and this is something that is employment law related.
Well, why don't we get into that first, Missy? Yeah. So why don't you, I know you have the text there, why don't you read it? Because I feel like without those of us that are listening that haven't heard this text or read it, you're not really going to grasp what really happened. So why don't you read it?
Yeah, sure. So just to preface on the text message, and just to confirm that this is actually the text message that was sent, was reposted on LinkedIn by another female attorney who claims she had permission from the victim or the associate that received the text. Okay. And I have the screenshot from it, and it appears to be, who it's from and who it's going to. So the text reads as follows. I had suspicions you were interviewing 2 months ago, and I told Stephen, which is the managing partner at the firm, then to ask you about it. I also told him to cut you loose at the time if confirmed. He was too nice of a guy to do so. What you did, collecting salary from the firm while sitting on your ass, except to find time to interview for another job, says everything one needs to know about your character. Karma's a bitch. Rest assured, regarding anyone who inquires, they will hear the truth from me about what a soulless and morally bankrupt person you are. Well,
soulless and morally bankrupt.
I'm not gonna lie, that kind of just sets me in. I was very like enraged by this text message simply because this woman is on maternity leave, and the fact that you think that anybody on maternity leave is just sitting, just waiting for time to pass and just watching the sand, come down in a little time capsule is
Sitting
utterly
on a lily
ridiculous.
pad, right?
Utterly ridiculous. I
Yeah, and
think
I mean, let's get into the issue spotting, right?
sure.
So at first it seems like this is just a jerk sending you a text. That might be how it's perceived in the moment, right? Then we have the extra layer of this is my boss, this is my superior. Then we have the extra layer of, this is an employment law firm. Of all the people, of all the people that should know what to say and not to say, that's where it should be, right? Like, what are they doing? So I can only imagine what people that are non-lawyers and non-employment lawyers, right, are saying to people. Then we have the maternity leave issue. Then we have just the cultural issue, the issues as females in a male dominated industry. Like, all of these things come up, right? Just through this one receipt of an unsolicited text message, right? Because clearly this is something he just took it upon himself to send to her, and here we are.
And it wasn't, and let me just be clear, because I read the text message as written. How many times a day, can we just comment on this? How many times a day do you draft a text message and you're like, okay, like autocorrect, here you go once again disrespecting me, that's not exactly what I was texting. It takes you a minute sometimes to draft a text before you send it. I can't imagine, given the length of this text message, that you didn't just do this in one shot. Okay. So
No, he thought about this.
thought about it,
He
edited
thought about
it.
it. He was pissed off. He was entitled. He was just, yeah. I mean, no,
It was
it's
inappropriate, just wholly inappropriate. I mean, the ironic part is that it's an employment law attorney sending a very flagrant text
right.
that falls into, a very problematic employment law issue. Now, I don't practice in Ohio. I can't tell you, the specifics of what, would establish an employment, law claim per se. I'm strictly limited to New Jersey and Florida, of course. But this is one of those times where, like, yeah, this doesn't sound right. Like, this doesn't smell right. Right. Like, I think you would agree with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, and again, like you said, I don't practice employment law and I'm not in Ohio, I'm in Florida, but I'm an employer and I've been an employee. And I mean, this is just crazy. Like, how are we expected as, as women, as moms, to excel in our careers and in our lives if this is what we're dealing with? Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard enough as it is. The legal profession, as amongst other professions that are male dominated, it's very hard as a woman to come up in these kinds of fields. It's very difficult. And, I'm saddened by the fact that maternity leave is still seen like it's some type of holiday. I think, I have one daughter. I joke all the time, but I'm serious in saying that, when I gave birth to her and we went home to the hospital from the hospital, I think it took me about a month to even realize where I was. I was like in a haze, I swear, for like a month, where it was like this repetition of like, okay, gotta feed her, gotta keep her on schedule. I have to keep this human alive. What's happening? Poop, pee, changing the outfits, nap time, feeding time, like constant, like round the clock hair. It's
Right. And
just,
let's not even forget about moms that are nursing, the extra factor that has, right?
right.
And well, it's not extra necessarily, it's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how about just healing your body? I
Yeah, birth
mean,
is a traumatic experience. Everybody, it's beautiful, right? It's depicted as something beautiful, and it very much is. Like, I don't want to take away from that, but medically speaking, your body goes through some of the most significant trauma it can go through, and then now you're obligated on top of those obligations that you have towards your child, that you're healing through all of this. whether it's, naturally, or you had a C-section, or however it is that, you
However, this
brought
baby
this,
came out.
let alone like dropping the baby weight and, getting yourself like, back together, if you will. You have this. So, I mean,
With the added societal pressure of why aren't you, skinny again in 5 minutes, right? We're not
right.
even gonna go there right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, your body took 9 months to move all its organs around to fit this growing watermelon. It gets pushed out or pulled out, and then you have to get all back together again.
Right.
Right. And from what I've read, there's a recommendation that you don't even get pregnant again for 18 months. So if you just think about, because that's kind of linked to what? Your body getting back to normal.
Right.
And
The healing
we haven't
process.
even gone into this, Missy, yet, but we don't have a standard maternity leave right in this country. So when we talk about maternity leave, maybe people that are listening that aren't in the US are shocked to know that we don't have that right. And that in other countries it's 3, 6 months, even a year sometimes, depending
Right.
on where you're at for both
Right.
parents or for just one, depending on the country.
Right.
And we don't have a guarantee to any of that. Right. This is
No.
more, it's obviously state-based, right? There are state laws and certain things, but this general idea of this just, it's expected that in order to procreate, I will be able to go home and heal and keep this thing alive, right? It's not a thing.
It's just, look, like the whole thing was just completely inappropriate. I am just saying, like, if this woman went through all of this, okay, on the cusp of like going on a maternity leave, is giving birth, and then she still feels she still feels as though, going back to her employer is not necessarily the best or more whatever her reasons are. She doesn't need a reason. Whatever her reasons are, she no longer wants to work there. That's her choice. Like, what obligations does one have while on maternity leave? You know, where does then you have the issue of, employer employee loyalty that comes in. Um, she's not, at least you're not obligated to do anything in New Jersey. Like, you're supposed to be healing. You're not supposed to be working. That's the time that's dedicated to you and your child. P.S. You're not paid your salary, at least not in New Jersey. Like, whatever it is that you're making, you're on temporary disability. And, depending on your income, there's certain factors that come into place. But, it's not like you're getting compensated while you're on maternity leave to the extent that, you may or may not be getting compensated what you normally get paid.
Right. Or are
So
you an
there's that.
hourly employee, right?
Right.
Where
Right.
you don't get anything. You don't get sick days, you don't get vacation, you don't get anything because your employer doesn't feel like giving it to you.
Yeah, but that's besides the point. Like, she felt the need to,
Right.
she made this decision for herself and her family. And then for somebody to come into play and then just,
I'm going to ruin your life,
right.
professionally speaking. The next time, if anybody ever comes around here to ask for a reference about you, this is the sole thing that I plan on telling people, right?
Right.
And I think that brings us also into the dynamics of the workplace, right? Because like you're saying, you've gone through all of this, also finding the time to look like a normal human, right? For interviewing purposes. I mean, there is, and if this is the way he's speaking to someone in this kind of scenario, this probably is something common. The condescending tone, being insulting, being aggressive, expecting work to be done probably when you're on leave, right? And that's what a lot of people are dealing with, particularly, women. And it makes it harder to get ahead, right?
Right. I mean, look, this is about implicit bias as it relates to parental leave, like men versus women, because, you get the side comments when you get back from leave, like, oh, how was your vacation? Ha 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 ha. To me. But if it's, a male colleague that is on, his bonding time or his leave, and he comes back like he's,
A hero.
father of the year, I don't know. The This doesn't sit well
I
with
mean,
me.
this happens outside of parental leave too, right? I mean, nobody claps at me when I go to the grocery store and praises me for being there with my child.
Yeah.
Whereas when my husband is alone, or I'm far enough away where he's alone with our daughter because I went to another aisle or something, it's just like, oh my gosh, praise and worship. Just it's just not the same. And it's,
I know.
it's just what's happening. So, going back to giving our listeners awareness and empowerment and the tools, right? You talked about if it doesn't feel right, you know, likely something's wrong, you know, and this is something that encompasses that, right? Have your rights been violated based off of, whatever rights that you had when you were on this leave? If this is something that happened to you on maternity leave,
Right.
is this an employment law issue? Is this a discrimination also, issue? There's a discrimination, there's just violations of what it means to be on leave. And then there's just the social and cultural part of it, right?
Hmm. Hmm. I mean that, and then from the employment perspective, if I think because as mothers or as parents, things become a little bit difficult. And then as you were explaining with the grocery store example, we're treated different. The treatment between men and women or fathers and mothers is completely different. And, I think what the text message, okay, what the sender, and I'm not justifying or defending this person at all, but I think the point was, it seems like he's hot because there was a kind of like perhaps an investment in her as an employee to some extent. But, and of course, like you want that person to stay, you want that person to continue working at your place of business. But if you, and a lot of these places advertise to be, oh, this is family, we're just like family. We want you here, for the long time. That's not a short time. There's a lot of investment, and and you and I both know this as um people, entrepreneurs, and people in business in the legal field. There is a huge both monetary and like time, like sweat equity investment when it comes to employees and bringing people on. So if you're advertising these kinds of things, if you're advertising this, image of, yes, we want you here for a long time, you have to make it like a professional landing place for someone to be there for an extended period of time. You can't just say it. You have to actually implement these things to do it. People go through phases, just you're a child, you develop into an adolescent, you're an adult, and throughout your whole life, these things are, your life is going, life is happening,
Right.
you're single, you have a family, or, things happen in your life, and things change. And I think that we need to be more open and more accommodating to people in their various stages of their life. If you really truly feel this way and you want people to stay and you want people to come back from maternity leave and stay with you have to be prepared for that. You have to provide a not like hostile environment. That's
Right.
not, to me, that's very like off-putting. Like, of course, now if I were to get that text message, now I know I made the right decision in not coming back to your firm for whatever reason I chose to leave, because then this is the stuff that I have to hear on the back end. Like,
Exactly. And this
where are
is
you
not
coming
just
from?
limited to maternity leave. It's not like your life is just, oh, now I'm back to my old quote unquote life after you have a kid, right? Now there's my kid is sick, or I'd like to go see my child's, whatever holiday play at school, which is at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, right? This is what life is about. And I think that lots of times, while things are starting to change slowly, you know, there's too much of a on the entrepreneur, the boss side of forgetting what it's like to be on the other side, because it's not just, oh, I want to be a boss and have other people work for me so I can go live my life, but other people have a life too, right?
Yeah.
And so if you want your business to grow and people to stay, I would hope you care about making the people that are there feel valued and that it's worth staying,
Right.
because at the end of the day, this is a job. I think I've said that when I've interviewed people to work for me. I've said, I know nobody wants to go to work, but I would hope that of all the places to choose to work, you actually enjoy being here, right? Because yes, it's still work. You still have this, I would rather be at the beach, but that's not realistic. So, like it's just all of that. It's about treating people with respect and dignity, paying them what they deserve to be paid, understanding how life works, and being accommodating while still maintaining this respect, this mutual respect.
Right. Yeah. I mean, wherever you're listening, I think the biggest takeaway is, sometimes it's about planning, knowing and understanding, what's going to happen when you go out on parental leave, whether you're a mom or a dad. And I don't want to just limit this to the moms, because it's very important for dads as well. The
Yes.
studies have shown it's very important for fathers, especially at the outset, to have that time with their children. And what I'm loving this now about today's era is that people more and more, especially specifically men, want to be involved with their kids. They want that bonding time initially at the outset. They want to get more involved in like the domestic things at home. And they want to, give their child that kind of that time and that attention. So I think that's a beautiful thing. And we need to, lean into that and stop being so resistant. Like, change is here, guys.
100%.
It's a healthy thing. It's a beautiful thing, and life happens. We need to be more accommodating about the interests of our like employees, if we really are invested in them and want them there for, the long time. If you just, want to run a mill and things like that, then these are the issues that you expect to happen. This is going to come up. But if you are interested in having people here for a long time, like, you gotta be invested within limits, of course, right?
Of course, everything has a limit, right?
There has to be rules. People can't abuse, of course, but if this is a good employee, if you feel so adamant about sending this text to somebody, then obviously you value this person enough. Then perhaps, a little bit perspective is to have approached that in a different way.
Right.
The firm in and of itself has since let go of that, attorney that sent that inflammatory text message.
It was a partner, not just, a regular attorney, if you will. He was a partner. So.
Right. And they also issued an apology.
My opinion, but
yeah, an apology was issued on their behalf. I mean, there's back and forth as to whether or not it was a sufficient enough of an apology. There's issues as to, did they know about this person's character? We can get it. You and I can go back and on and on and on and on. But I think the takeaway is this, get in the know about, what happens when you guys go on, when we go on leave. When something doesn't feel right, ask a question. There's no harm in asking questions. I think there's always the concern about being litigious, and it's not about being litigious. It's about these things are implemented to protect you and to help you. So it's kind of like the more kind of situation.
right.
That way you know how to navigate these situations. And
even though that can be scary though, Missy. I mean, I know that if you're interviewing for a job, even if you're not thinking about getting pregnant, it's alarming maybe how it comes off to say, what's your maternity leave kind of policy, right? Because there's this feeling that the employer is going to say, oh, this person's going to get a job and just going to try to get pregnant and get our benefits and leave, right?
You wouldn't think that in an interview if somebody asked you that. Like, let's just be honest.
If I would think that about somebody, I would no, I mean, I think that they would be somebody that is open, right? That there's somebody who is open to having communication, because at the end of the day, if there's no communication, nothing is going to work, right? I can't know what your needs are if you don't tell me what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there are certain things that are, clearly should be obvious, but those are one of those things that are there. But I think that it's more so the fear, especially with cultural differences and power dynamics. And are you being interviewed by an older man and you are young, female? Is there a cultural difference? Or, all of these things kind of make it sometimes scary for people to want to talk. And I feel as though, and this is going off topic, but people generally have become more afraid of being direct in one-on-one conversations, even though there's a lot of, comment warriors on the internet that will love to just write whatever they feel like it, but they would never dare open their mouth in person. Right. And so that's an issue for another day. But I personally wouldn't have a problem with it, but I know that there would be a fear on the other side. And I know employers who I've met before who do think, oh, I don't like hiring women of a certain age because more likely than not, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
and it's just a reality.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to side with you. I agree with you. It's more of a planning issue. It's a communication issue because if it's coming up, right, I think that's also kind of like the context that, or what I'm getting off of that text message, that there was something like some kind of impediment, right? Like something happened and this created a huge problem. So part of that is also the employee has obligations, but the employer also has an obligation too, to like, what's the plan? What happens when you go on leave? Like, you're
Right.
going to take all the work
Do
in
you
this
have an
summer?
employee handbook that lays this all out so that people know exactly what they can have and what they can't have? And other than that, what is the law where you're at?
Yeah, but what I'm saying also is like, what's going to happen to your workload when you go on maternity leave? Is it going to get dumped on somebody? Like, what is the realistic plan? Because
Yeah.
by the time, so typically, okay, they say really not to say anything about you being pregnant until after, you get through the first 3 months, the first
Mhm.
trimester, because that's when the fetus is considered viable. Some people give earlier, and listen, that is completely your choice as to when you want to give notice. Like, that's totally on you. But the point is, there is at least another 6 months, 6 to 7 months of planning. Let's assume it was given around the 3 month period. You have about 6 to 7 months to just implement a plan and
Right.
to get stuff together. Which seems like a long time, but I can assure you that it is not.
It's not.
It is a reasonable amount of time to, like,
Yeah.
implement a plan and a strategy to further support this person and say, hey, like, understand this big life event is happening to you. Congratulations. This is the plan for success. It's twofold, right? It helps the business and it also helps the employee to kind of take the stress off.
Right. Right.
Uh,
And then and listen, as an employer, there's always the possibility that someone's going to leave you, maybe not because they quote unquote want to, in the sense that they don't like working for you, but it may be because their spouse got another job or got relocated and they're moving. It may just because whatever reason they have an elderly parent that they need to take care of. There could be a million reasons,
whatever it is,
right?
right?
And this person could give you a 2 weeks notice and you're going to have to figure this out anyway. So why don't we just be open and talk about it and take it from there?
Right,
So,
right.
Missy, I think we could talk about this forever.
I
And
mean,
all of the, just issues that this webs together and, you know, stemming, this is like a full day's conversation that could happen, stemming just from someone who said, check out this text I got from my former employer. Right.
right, right. So I
And
mean,
something can seem minimal at that point. And that's where this kind of comes into, you know, being forward looking, seeing these examples that you and I are going to talk about on here to say, oh, I know someone that's happened to, or I don't want that to happen to me. Maybe I should consider this and that. Right.
right.
So hopefully it's something that can bring some type of awareness and just an ability to help people kind of get through these times in their lives.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of us posting and we want more interaction, we'll probably have some kind of posting related to this. Has this happened to you or somebody that you know? Do you have any questions about a situation like this and what needs to happen? This is not the place to give you like legal advice. This is, of course, to offer resources so that you're able to be more empowered and to be more in the know about, where you stand on things and how you can, I guess, have a little bit of more perspective on certain issues when they come up. So let us know what you want to know about this. Did you find this interesting? Did you have any questions about any of the things that we discussed today? We'd love to interact with you. And of course, follow us on Instagram at Lawbogadas. Send us an email at info@lawbogadas.com. And just let us know what your thoughts are. We'd love to hear more about you. Connie, you're specific to Florida. You're licensed in Florida. I'm licensed in New Jersey, primarily practiced in New Jersey, but also licensed in Florida. So, that is more of our niche, and that's, where we're more comfortable in speaking to. But of course, anything that comes up, we're happy to assist in any way that we can. So happy that you guys listen to us today. Hope you're waiting to hear about more of the things and more of the issues that are important to us, that are hopefully important to you. And yeah, so had a great time. Again, my name is Missy Duarte. I'm here with my co-host Connie Peña. Connie, I think this was a good episode. I'm happy we chose this as our first episode.
Yeah, I think it kind of really brings into perspective all the things that we want to talk about and what we're about. And like Missy, like you were saying, we want questions, we want topic ideas. And as you said, we can't give legal advice, not because we not necessarily don't want to, but because every case is different, every state is different, every scenario is different. So, it's really hard for somebody to be able to give a specific answer that can be considered legal advice without knowing everything. So, we don't want anybody to send a super specific fact pattern that, trying to get an answer from us, because it may be very difficult. We may not be allowed to. So I just wanted to put that out there, because we do want to help and point out resources and provide as much guidance as we can within what we can actually do, because there's a lot of, everybody is trying to give advice and do things that, that is just trying to get put out there. And we really want to be able to point people in the right direction and give them the tools that they need to get ahead.
So, I mean, the best takeaway is, if you really want to know the specifics of your situation, you contact your local attorney. There's various resources, state to state, as to, directories and associations that can direct you to, the professionals specific to your jurisdiction, your state, that can best assist you. So
and
thanks so much for listening, you guys.
Yes. And if you need, I was just going to say, personal injury, civil litigation in New Jersey, that's where Missy's at, family court, divorce, paternity, child support, all that good drama. In Florida, that's where I'm at. So thanks so much for listening. Thank you, Missy.
Thank you, Connie.
It's been great.
Soon. Take
Bye.
care.